Hi there. Welcome to Bourbon Turntable. We are the show that blends the love of music with the love of whiskey. With me tonight, as always, Mr. Drew Crowley.
Howdy,
How are you,
sir.
Drew?
I'm doing well, doing well. It's been a nice, relaxing weekend. Nothing really going on for the first time in what feels like months. So stayed home yesterday. That would have been Saturday at the time we're recording this for the most part. Did a little go-kart racing and mini golfing yesterday. And
Yeah.
then today has been just chores. So cooking, groceries, laundry, yard, all the maintenance of the house and the week stuff. So
Those are chores. Those are the definition of chores.
indeed. How
Yeah.
about you?
Oh, just yesterday I worked for most of the day.
Oh,
And then today went to church, ran sound at church. And when we got home, grandkids came over for a little while. You and I went back and forth by text about, hey, somebody can't make a guest can't make the show tonight. What are we going to do? So I think we've come up with a pretty good idea. And,
I think so too.
So I've got a question for everybody in the audience. Do you like Huey Lewis in the News? Their earlier stuff was a little new age for my taste, but by the time sports came out, they really hit their stride. Now, if you got that reference, then you've watched a lot of movies too, because that's a quote from the movie American Psycho. But we are going to be talking about Huey Lewis in the News, specifically the sports album, which turns 40 this year. So if you're thinking, oh yeah, I remember that like it was yesterday, then you're old like me too. But Drew, you're not old like me, and you're a fan of this album too, aren't you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, we've talked about this band kind of in the ethers of our conversations
Mhm.
about kind of underappreciated. This is a band I came to, of course, through the movie Back to the Future,
Yeah.
but was just kind of really into. They have kind of a fun sound.
Yeah.
They've carved out a really niche and cool place in pop culture, and I think are very underrated and underappreciated as musicians. There's some
Yeah.
really talented players in that group.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that a little bit more on side B of the show. But first, we want to tell you about Bar Cart Co-op. Bar Cart Co-op is a collection of friends that produce content for the whiskey enthusiast, the bourbon lover. First, we've got Distillers Talk with Alan Bishop and Christy Atkinson. Distillers Talk. They drop shows about every week, and they're having conversations with the distillers from across the country and around the world about distillation techniques and grains that they may use and maturation techniques, and you name it, they covered on that show. And it's a lot of fun. They always have some great conversations. If you want to know more about what's in that bottle and how it got there, this is the show for you. Alan also does One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute, where you can write in, text in, carrier pigeon in questions to him about distillation, and he will post YouTube video responses to those questions in pretty good detail. I'd say if we really, Drew, if we were really paying attention to all of those, we could probably be a master distiller right now.
Definitely. Yeah.
Definitely. Hey,
throwback there.
Yeah. My Whiskey Den with Pat and Mike and Mitch airs every Monday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central Time. My Whiskey Den, where craft whiskey is king. Man, that's a lot of fun to just hang out in the chat and crack jokes and be a smart aleck. So it's really right up my alley. But we wanted to let you know a little bit more about our show and where you can see it.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Hit that bell notification to find out when new episodes are coming out, which do come out every single Wednesday on all of the services: Spotify, Apple Music, Google, maybe Amazon, definitely YouTube. And always hit that like button, but hit it an odd number of times, so then that way it stays as a like.
Thanks, Mike. I've got to update that because the beard game has gone next level. I mean, beyond next level. It's like a parallel universe. So I've got to make sure we get that in there. We also have a new member to Bar Cart Co-op. David Levine, who's been on our show before. We had a great conversation with him. But David's whiskey reviewer. He has a podcast. He has a website called Whiskey in My Wedding Ring. David is very smart. He's really nice guy. He knows his stuff, and he'll be a lot of fun to have hanging around with us at Bar Cart Co-op. So tonight we're going to be drinking together. We both have this Old Forester 100. All right. Mm-hmm. So nothing fancy. Okay. So it's not always, you're talking about things that I can't get, or, everybody can get this. So we're going to talk about Old Forester 100, a little bit about Old Forester. But Drew, what are your thoughts on Old Forester in general while we start sipping on this?
Certainly. Well, it's a storied brand, and I'll just go ahead and give the caveat that at one time I was employed by them, so I'm a little bit of a homer. But kind of just right down the middle of the road, Kentucky bourbon profile, right? So you've got a little bit of the sweet, aromatics. You've got your vanilla and your caramel. You got a really nice kind of an orangey note. Got just a little bit of the black pepper. You got just a little bit of cinnamon going on. And what I really think this one shows up as is balanced. And just kind of a change up down the middle kind of a bourbon. Mm-hmm. And so it's good enough to sit and eat. It's kind of the house bourbon around my place. We usually always have a bottle of that, or maybe one or two other things that kind of float in and out, popping around. But then the other thing that I think this one has that stands out is it is a fantastic base spirit for just about every bourbon forward cocktail. 100 proof. Stands up against most other mixers, and then the balance of the profile really allows it to kind of either showcase itself as bourbon, maybe with a complementary thing like a limoncello or something like a Gold Rush that has a citrus element, or it can kind of fade to the back in a Manhattan where your sweet vermouth or your chocolate or your cherry or whatever other kind of version of a Manhattan you're making, it can kind of fade back. So it really is kind of the Swiss Army knife of whiskeys, in my opinion. Pretty good in just about any scenario.
Yeah.
And for $25-$26 a bottle, pretty hard to beat in my estimation. So anyway.
Yeah, I would agree with the versatility of it. And I'm a little bit on the other end of the spectrum as far as Old Forester in general goes. It's not something that I'll typically reach for. To me, there's a medicinal cherry note and that just kind of runs through everything Old Forester. And that's just not something that typically appeals to me. But I think that it does work really, really well in cocktails. I mean, I'm sipping on this now, neat, and it's good. You say, hey, I've got Old Forester 100. You want to pour? I'm not going to turn my nose up at it. Okay.
Sure.
It's not like I hate it. It's just not that cherry note in there is just not something that I prefer.
Absolutely.
But I have a lot of respect for the history of the brand and the things that they did in terms of pushing that forward. When they came out with the whole Whiskey Rose series, I thought that was very creative. They came out with the rye and they kept it at an incredibly reasonable price point. But I think now they've kind of jumped the shark.
There is an element of that. I can certainly see where you're coming from. Do you have a timeline that pinpoints that for you when it was like, okay, we're doing a little bit too much, or is there something that was it just kind of burnout on the amount of releases and what all was coming out so quickly? Or
I think it was probably a little after the time that they opened the Whiskey Row distillery and tour facility. And just, they would release things online and they would sell out in 8.5 seconds. That's a little suspect to me.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
That sounds to me like, well, we sold a bunch of bottles to people that we gave advance notice to or sold them beforehand. And then, the public's left to scramble over 30 bottles.
Sure.
Kind of like going to Spirits of French Lick, but that's a different story. But it's gotten to a nonsensical level, and you look at what, just a single barrel released at the distillery on a random Thursday. I mean, those things go for stupid prices.
Yep.
The birthday bourbon, it makes no sense that when you drink that whiskey, there's no way that's worth hundreds to thousands of dollars. It's just not.
No, I completely agree. Yeah.
But they've got that whole, well, my dog was born that year, so I've got to get that bottle. Okay,
Sure.
well, good luck.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing that drives Blanton's and drives, certain
Sure.
Evan Williams single barrels and all that kind of stuff. They kind of carved that out for their brand as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'll tell you this. Our friend Jason Perocco, super great guy. If you don't know Jason, you need to know Jason. If you're in the Louisville area, he and his bandmate will play shows quite frequently at local bars under the name Vendors Unplugged. So if you see them playing, go see it. It's a lot of fun. But Jason is Filipino, and every year he does a big charity golf event that's basically just, he asks his buddies, hey, come play golf and we'll raise money for this home, this orphanage kind of home in the Philippines. So it's crazy. Just by Jason asking his buddies and word of mouth, how much money they raise. And I don't know exactly. If I said something, it would just be a wild guess. I don't remember, but he calls it the Mitch Cumstein Invitational. And Mitch Cumstein was never actually in Caddyshack, but he was referenced in Caddyshack by Chevy Chase in one of the scenes of the movie. So he calls it Mitch Cumstein Invitational, just to be funny. Ha ha ha. Well, after they'd done this for a few years, he gets this letter back from the Philippines, and he opens it, and there's a photo in it. And these kids are holding this great big sign that say, "Thank you, Mitch Cumstein." That's awesome.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But I played in it a few years ago. Actually, it was right before everything shut down for COVID. All right.
Okay.
And he hadn't done it since, but he's going to start it up again this year. So if you're interested in playing golf and raising money for children in the Philippines, this is your chance. But everything was kind of Caddyshack themed. So there's Fresca out on the table. You get there early in the morning, and there's breakfast spread, but they got Fresca in there, and so I grab a bottle of Old Forester that was sitting on the table, and I pour a healthy amount of Old Forester in the glass, and then I take a Fresca and top it off, and it is stunning how good this is. So we created the Mitch Cumstein cocktail that day.
Outstanding.
And I tell you, especially on a summer day, that grapefruit citrus of the Fresca soda and the Old Forester and the whiskey notes that it has does the trick. So I encourage you to try this. It's really good.
Cheers. That sounds fantastic. I'm going to have to try to get my hands on some Fresca.
Oh, that makes you smile. Oh goodness. But you know, Old Forester in general, I think they've as a brand. I don't think you can say anything bad about what they've contributed to the world of whiskey.
Sure.
And even today, I like the innovation that they've put into things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how long's I just spaced on her name.
It's okay. Melissa?
No, the Jackie. How long? Thank you. How long has Jackie been gone from there? A year?
It's
a little over.
Close to 2, I think.
Okay.
From the time that she announced her departure to the time that she's been now. She's with the folks over at Hidden Barn, and then she's got a fragrance brand as well now.
Yeah.
She's doing some like blending and stuff for it, but yeah, probably pushing 2 years, if not right at.
And I think Jackie pushed a lot of that innovation. Would you agree or disagree? Because you were right there during a lot of that.
I was going to say most definitely. I think she was kind of the driving force behind that. Obviously there's internal politics and stuff at editing company, but with Old Forester being a part of the family of brands, along with Woodford Reserve, kind of headed by Chris Morris, and Jack Daniel's being what it is.
Right.
I think Jackie felt. I don't know if it's pressure or motivation or what the correct term is, but to really carve out her own lane with Old Forester. And so I think innovation was a huge part of that, of just trying to say, hey, we might be the redheaded stepchild in the Brown-Forman whiskey family as far as case volume and things like that, but we're still here. We're still doing stuff. So yeah, I would say she was probably the driving force behind a lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think she's done very well for herself, and hope everything goes well for her.
Most definitely.
Hidden Barton and whatever other future endeavor she has. But I think that it at least appeared to me, as somebody kind of on the outside looking in, that her presence there, I don't think it was just coincidental. That a lot of the things, as far as the reworking of their single barrel program, which I think you were a part of that as well. And I don't know how much she was involved in the continued development of the Whiskey Row series, but that was a big deal at the time.
Most definitely. Yeah, I think everything up and through 1910, she was involved in creating, profiles for. Obviously, the 117 series was kind of after she had left, but I know she had a hand in kind of starting that. The single barrel evolution of moving things to barrel strength, or the other proof points that they have available and things like that. That was all her. So pretty neat stuff. Yeah. The other thing that I would just bring back into your earlier point of the kind of jump the shark, kind of conversation, I suppose, and I'd just get your opinion on this. Prior to Prohibition, Old Forester was pretty large brand, and it was one of only a few brands here in Kentucky to be granted a medicinal license. And then up until the time of Coach Bear Bryant in Alabama was like a nothing brand after Prohibition. So do you think that some of the ubiquity or just kind of over marketing of the brand has to do with trying to get back to a certain case volume, or is it competing with Sazerac or other brands the size of Brown-Forman, or what do you think that's about?
I think it's just the bourbon is crazy, and sometimes bourbon is stupid. And I think it's striking while the iron is hot.
Sure.
And I think as a brand, I think they started to get a certain volume of barrels in aging at the right time. I think that they could certainly have a lot more and still command the kind of price that they're getting. But to their credit, other than when they first came out, the 1910 and 1920 were, kind of scarce on the shelf. But I think since then, they've done a really good job at keeping that flowing.
Sure.
And then just the base product, like the Old Forester 100 or the 86 and the rye as well. I mean, they've done a good job of keeping all of that moving along while they've done some other things. Now,
most definitely.
So I think they've just have been able to take advantage of the market, of the situation, and just kind of the craziness that's going on with it.
Sure. Oh, I think that's good insight.
What would you think?
Yeah, I think that's definitely some of it. I know there's some competition within the American whiskey portfolio there, just between Woodford, Jack, Old Forester, and then, up until the last, maybe, what was it, 3 years ago that Early Times was sold to Sazerac? Has it been that long?
I don't think it's been that long, but it could be.
Yeah, it probably not that lengthy, but anyway, there's competition, so I think there's kind of some pressure from that. But then the other thing that I think that Old Forester, as a brand, the folks kind of behind the marketing and research and development side of things, they want to have something in every category of the American whiskey shelf. They want a rye, they want a low proof, they want a mead proof, they want single barrels, they want sort of limited expressions, they want an ultra rare expression with the birthday bourbon. They just want something for everyone, so that if you're a casual or even slightly above casual bourbon drinker, you could stay within the Old Forester family and have something for just about every occasion.
Right.
And I think that's part of the overall marketing strategy as well.
Right. Yeah, I think it will be interesting if they go down the route of single malt corn whiskey, and I would be interested to hear conversations at that Brown-Forman level between, okay, what are we going to do with Woodford? What are we going to do with Jack Daniels? What are we going to do with Old Forester? And somebody at Old Forester says, well, hey, yeah, what if we do this? And they say, no, we want that to come from Jack Daniels, or do we want that to come from Woodford?
Sure.
I would be very curious to see what that kind of back and forth would be like.
Most definitely. Well, because Woodford's basically the only one that's done category innovations as far as, wheat whiskey and a malt and the, multiple secondary aging kind of a thing. Yeah.
Well,
they're kind of flagging that.
Yeah.
Seems.
And Jack's done, in addition to, Old Number 7,
Right.
you've got the barrel proof or the single barrel expressions, the barrel proof single barrel rye. If you can ever find them, just get it. Okay. Just get it. It's fantastic.
Yep.
So
you've got the regular rye, you've got the apple, the honey, the Sinatra, the Tennessee Tasters. I mean, they've got a bunch of stuff under that label.
Yeah. But, I would be very interested to see what those conversations would be like and how that strategy got employed. Because, and what kind of heated debates you might get in, because, hey, this is my idea, and now you're wanting to implement it somewhere else, and that's just the price you pay for being big bourbon, even if you're not necessarily that big, but you're getting nailed potentially. Yeah,
for sure.
Well, anything else on Old Forester? Any other thoughts?
Hard to go wrong. Good brand. I can say with full faith that it's made by good people who really want to deliver a high quality product. So if you're just looking for something as a casual sipper or as your well or your house bourbon, can't go wrong with this one for the price point, and you can trust that the folks working the stills and working the gift shops and the guest experiences really do want the best for their customers and their people. So
yeah. Your favorite Old Forester expression is
1920. I've had some single barrels that I like better, but just what's readily available, the 1920 is hard to beat for me. Always tastes like pecan pie. Works great around a fire in the fall, works great in the winter to warm you up, works great in the summer if you're doing some day drinking or misbehaving. I mean, it's perfect. No, I've got no notes on the 1920. What about you?
Yeah, I would say 1920 as well. I mean, if I don't have an inside source that can pull me some barrel strength, you know, you know, on a side note,
Those
then
were the
yeah,
days.
yeah, those were the days. 1920. I mean, I don't want to get you in trouble, so I'll just stop talking.
I've been out of there a long time.
Anyway, so everybody's tried some Old Forester, I'm sure. So if you've got your thoughts on what your favorite expression is, leave a comment in the notes to the video or on YouTube, whatever the case may be. Let us know what you like best, because we would like to hear that. And if you try this Mitch Cumstein with the Fresca and the Old Forester, let me know how you like it. Okay. I won't charge you royalties for, using the name or anything like that. But it's really good. It's very, very good. See, it makes me smile. All right. So we're going to switch things over to side B in a minute, and I'm going to put Drew on the spot because, again, we just planned this show, a couple hours ago. So Drew, our commercial tonight is going to be you. That's great.
All right.
That's kind of a fuzzy picture I got off the internet.
That's okay.
Just tell us what you got going on right now. I know we've got the apartment sessions that came out. It'll be 2 years in January.
Tower Songs came out 2 years in January.
Yes.
So that apartment sessions was probably 10 months or so after. So
yeah,
got Tower Songs, my first EP, full band EP out wherever you stream music. Got the apartment sessions up there as well, which are kind of acoustic stripped back versions of a couple of those tunes, and then one kind of teaser on that apartment sessions EP. And then we put out 3 singles. We've got Stuck, we've got Wild Boys, and we've got Chestnut Street. All of those have kind of made their way into the world, kind of to prepare the way for this next record. So that's kind of where you can find music, wherever you listen, wherever you stream. We've got some shows coming up, all over the place. The easiest way to find that is to go to drewcrawleymusic.com. I've got everything that we've booked out through, I think, October, November so far. And then, hopefully we'll add a few more dates before now and the end of the year. Some of those will be solo acoustic shows. Most of the time, if it's a bar or a restaurant here in Louisville, it'll be solo acoustic things. I take requests, but I don't know songs. So come out. I'll yell at you. We'll play games. We'll, take requests, and just kind of a fun, all ages kind of environment. And then some of those shows will be with the band. And that's really where we can tear it up and let loose a little bit. We've got a date, coming up here for the Watch Hill Proper Whiskey Festival, which may or may not have already happened by the time this episode airs, but that'll be a good time. And then the big push right now is we are planning to release a record this November. So we don't have a official launch date for that yet. I'm headed up to Nashville a few more days at the end of this week. Hopefully put a bow on all the final mixes and have that ready to go. We did a photo shoot for artwork over this weekend. We've got all kinds of things. It's coming down to it. But if you've enjoyed anything you've heard so far, if you've seen me live, if you've listened, keep your eyes peeled, follow wherever. I'm really, really proud of this new record. I'm proud of the guys and girls that played on it. I'm excited to take a step forward as a writer, I think. Just kind of evolving my own sound and working better with the producer and the band. And it feels like a next step in the evolution. So very, very excited about that, and be honored if you follow along in any way, whether that's online, in person, or buy the record when it comes out.
Yeah. Well, I'm really proud of you and what you're doing, and have had the great opportunity to see a lot of this kind of, behind the scenes as well, and have seen you perform. I have no idea how many times.
Dozens, probably.
Yeah, and I'll say this for you. Your evolution as a live performer has been really fun to watch, because you really know how to work the crowd now, and move through songs and interact with your band, interact with the people in the audience. You've done a really great job building your skill in that regard, as well as your ability as a guitarist, as a singer, and I think especially as a songwriter. So if you're around Louisville and just plan your trip when you can come see Drew play, especially if you can see Drew in the band, because it's a lot of fun. And those are some good guys in that band too. So
absolutely.
All right. So
I don't know about that drummer, but the rest of them are pretty cool.
he's kind of sketchy. He's kind of sketchy. So turning 40, September 15th, 1983, is this album. Huey Lewis and the News Sports. All right. So, Drew, when did you first hear of Huey Lewis and the News?
Oh, goodness. Probably would have had to been 2008, 2009, sometime around there, with the soundtrack to the Back to the Future movie, the very first one. And that was a movie my dad showed, I think, me and one of my brothers that he deemed old enough to see it. One of those kind of a things. Yeah. And he was telling us about this band, Huey Lewis, and that he had really liked them for a long time. He kind of grew up, teenage years and, high school, college was the mid, late 80s. So this is kind of a big deal band for him. He was very excited to share that with us. And then I completely ignored it for probably another 10 years after that. And then, just kind of came back to it here and there. Heard some interviews with Huey on Rick Rubin's podcast, The Broken Record. Getting these weird props and shout outs from other musicians I like John Mayer. References them a lot in his Sob Rock and Search for Everything records as kind of being an influence. I was like, all right, let me dig back in. So I would say I've really dug in over the last 2 or 3 years to them, but they've kind of been a part of my life for maybe 15 years or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. What about you?
They were, I was 13 years old when their first album came out, so I knew a little bit about what was going on then. And what was the Trouble in Paradise, I think, was probably the big single on that first album. And it's really good. I think there's some fun songs on that album. Some of My Lies Are True is on that too.
Don't Make Me Do It is a banger.
Don't Make Me Do It. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Now the first album went well. Okay. Let's go way back. All right. This recently we hit our 100th show, and we'll hit our 2nd year anniversary of the show in early September. And on, I think, the first show we did, we talked about our favorite debut albums. Huey Lewis and the News self-titled debut album was on your list.
Indeed. Yeah, I just think it's such a strong showing from a band. You've got this group that had all been kind of part of other things before. Both of them, both Huey Lewis and the News, had a prior history in the recording industry. And they come together, and it's this really cool blend of blues and piano music that I just really love. It's got kind of, you'll have to correct me on the timeline of this, but it's reminiscent of like Chicago and Billy Joel and like 80s pop. And it's just got this weird thing going on where it's kind of this amalgamation, and they are kind of just kind of pinnacle of 80s sound. Like if you had to point to one band that sounds like the 80s to me, it's Huey Lewis.
Yeah. You kind of referenced it there. This is a San Francisco-based band that the original name was Clover, and for a while, the band without Huey Lewis was the backing band for Elvis Costello, I think, on his first album. And at the same time, Huey's over in Ireland playing with Thin Lizzy. He's actually on the Live and Dangerous album, which is often considered to be one of the best live albums ever made. But then the band kind of got back together. They're trying to figure out what they were going to do. The first name they came up with, new name they came up with, was American Express, and that kind of got shot down because they were going to get sued from the credit card company.
Sure.
So then they settled on Huey Lewis and the News. To me, and the quote from American Psycho is spot on. I think the first two albums are a little new wave. I think they're going back to kind of an Elvis Presley sound, an old soul sound, and they're stretching that forward to a bit of a new wave sound. And that was with the debut album and with Picture This, which they had a couple of good songs on that. Do You Believe in Love, Working for a Living were on that. Big, pretty good size hits. But then Sports hits. And they admitted we were very intentional. We were trying to create songs that would be hit singles. And if we didn't, then we were going to all go and find something else to do. Fortunately for them and for us, it worked out. And I would agree. The sound of Huey Lewis and the News, in a lot of ways, epitomized 80s music. So,
yeah, it's a great way to put it. Great way to put it.
And a remarkably successful album. 7 times platinum. It came out in. They actually recorded it in 82 and did not release it until September of 83 because of internal issues at their record label. They didn't want to release the album and it just kind of get lost because there were problems with the label. So they waited until September. They released it. I think Heart and Soul was the first single off of it, and I think it came out in August, and the album came out in September. And that album stretched from essentially August of 83, and then the last single came out in December of 84. And in 1984, there were 5 albums that hit number 1, and and Sports was one of them, and the other 4 were the Footloose soundtrack, the Purple Rain soundtrack, Born in the USA, and Purple Rain. Born in the USA and Thriller. Thriller was
wow. So that's rarefied air.
That's good company. Yeah, that's good company.
You just because you mentioned Born in the USA, you're an Office fan, correct? You're a fan of that show? Okay. Yeah. It's just one of my favorite bits when they're doing the crime auction, giving away Bruce Springsteen tickets. And Michael says, here's my favorite Bruce Springsteen songs. And then 3 of them are Huey Lewis and the News songs. It's just fantastic.
Oh, man.
Great little bit.
So the thing with this album it had, I think, 5 hit singles on it. And you could not escape it. It was just one of those phenomenon kind of things. And it became where it was everywhere. And Huey Lewis and the News were smart enough to capitalize on that. And basically between that and then the Back to the Future songs, Power of Love and Back in Time that came out the following summer, that just kept it going. Sports charted for 160 weeks. So
wow,
that's some staying power.
No kidding. Yeah. Now, did they stagger singles differently then? Were they lead ups or did they come out as individual vinyl pressings at the same time as the record?
Well, the way they do it, way they do it now is you can release singles all you want to, but then once the album comes out, you don't release anything.
Right.
At least that's the way it seems to be. Back then, they released one single before the album came out, and then everything else came out afterwards. Hang on a second, I'll find it. But where does it go? I'm not sure. Anyway, they did a great job with how all that came about. But Heart and Soul came out first, and then I think Heart of Rock and Roll came out. The last one that came out was Walking on a Thin Line.
Okay.
But if you go back and look, go back and watch those videos.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because this red suit, I mean, that's prominent in I Want a New Drug, and I think it's kind of referenced in If This Is It as well. They're really well done. Huey's obviously the star of it, but all the other guys in the band are featured in those things, and personality kind of comes through. And okay, look at the hair.
I was gonna say,
look at the hair. That's some fantastic hair. Okay,
the tremendous amount of mousse was used in the creation of that photo.
Yes, I think is that. Yeah, that's something. But yeah, the singles are just kind of staggered throughout late '83 and throughout '84, and even some of the songs that didn't make it as singles were really good. Finally Found a Home, I thought was a really good song too.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And I Want a New Drug was obviously a very popular song for the band. And there was later a lawsuit with Ray Parker Jr. over the Ghostbusters theme.
Yes.
Okay, I really struggled with that. Like, I can't. If you tell me that and I'm listening for it, okay, I can kind of hear how Ghostbusters is to the similar tune of I Want a New Drug, but
sure,
you could do that with a lot of music.
Anything. Yeah. And you've got 1,000 lawsuits like that going on right now. I think the one that most recently comes to mind is like Olivia Rodrigo and Paramore, or this Ed Sheeran one that's been going on. There's only 12 notes in a scale, and we've got 100+ years of recorded music. We're going to repeat some motifs and some ideas. And I understand to an extent, hey, don't rip me off, entirely. Right. But that one seemed a little frivolous. Just to bring it back around to whiskey, do you think there's something in the, Maker's Mark is historically litigious, we shall say, about wax tops on spirit bottles? Yes. Is it one of those things, or was it genuinely you think there was some territorial pissing going on? I don't know what to make of it.
I think it was just kind of carving out territory, but they settled out of court, and then there was a non-disclosure on the thing, on the lawsuit and the settlement, and apparently Huey was in an interview and brought it up. So then Ray Parker Jr. Sued him for violating the non-disclosure. So all of it was kind of silly, I thought. But the part of the appeal, and I mentioned the videos before, but part of the thing that really spurred this on was MTV era, and that was huge. Huey Lewis and the News were huge on MTV when they actually played music videos, and I don't know what they do now.
It's just ridiculousness. 18 hours a day, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm old enough to remember, coming home from school and sitting down and doing my homework with MTV on and watching, music videos. It was a lot of fun. But you can't do that anymore. It's kind of sad, but like I said, the whole sports album led into just them taking advantage of that popularity. And then when Power of Love came out in June of '85 with the Back to the Future movie, I mean, that went not just, stratospheric, it went intergalactic. They were, again, everywhere. You could not get away from that song. I don't like the song, but you could not get away from it. It was just everywhere you went, you heard it. And, good on them. I mean, they made a fortune off of it.
Sure.
So if you're looking at, let's go back and focus on sports for just a second.
Sure.
This was the original album cover.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the 30th year anniversary, they reshot the photo and for their 30th anniversary tour. So I thought
that's pretty fun.
When you look at the album, what sticks out to you about it?
So my first thought is it reminds me of the opening title sequence of the show Cheers. It's a very specific bar look. But obviously Huey being in the foreground, the rest of the band being in the background. It looks like any group of guys you would see in any kind of bar, kind of a thing. Not overly stylized, not overly pretentious. It's just yep, here we are.
Yep.
So
yeah,
that's what I initially picked up on. What about you? It seemed like there was something behind that question.
No, I think that this band was approachable. Okay. It's like, it's kind of the old expression, guys wanted to be them, women wanted to be with them. Okay. They're look friendly enough that you could just picture yourself, okay, we're just going to hang out and have a drink at this bar. But they're also good looking enough that the women are going to be attracted to them as well at that level. It's the appeal of the band and their sound and this album. I mean, I'm sure there are people that don't like it, but you've got to have a very specific warp to your DNA to say, I hate Huey Lewis and the News.
Right.
I can't fathom what that would be. Maybe it's not your cup of tea. Maybe you like something that's a little more hard edged, and that's fine. But
sure,
how could you hate Huey Lewis and the News? If you
doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, if you hate Huey Lewis and the News, comment on here why. Okay, because I just don't get it. I would not get it.
It's just fun.
It is fun.
It's kind of like
it should be. Music should be fun. All right. Yeah. We want to, we want to be, we want to change the world, and we want to, go up against the man. And okay, can we not have fun too?
Sure. Yeah. It's a good band for it.
Yeah, it is a good band for it. Now let's talk about what songs from Huey Lewis and the News Drew Crowley and the Wild Boys should do.
See, we've talked about this.
Yep.
We've talked about this. And unfortunately, the Wild Boys have been on a bit of a hiatus for the last 2 months, but we're gearing up for some more. So we had talked about Bad is Bad. I think you texted me a couple of options that we had talked about. The obvious choice is, Power of Love. But we want to find a way to do it like us. We've joked around. We've done Never Gonna Give You Up. We've done our own takes on Freebird, and just those kind of fun moments in the set where we're all goofing around and we're goofing around, but it's still a good time.
Right.
That one kind of fits. So Man, I don't think you could go wrong with much of anything off the sports album. It's just finding the exact niche that most generations are going to pick up on. That we're
Yeah.
doing this cover now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, and I mentioned Bad is Bad to you because I think that that could be kind of that, palate cleanser song. Okay. Because you can kind of get everybody in the band and everybody in the audience doing the do whip bip 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 boo wop up, and then I think it'd be fun.
Absolutely.
But Working for a Living off the Picture This album, I think could work too.
That would be a great time.
Yeah, you might either have to learn how to really play harmonica really well, or let Evan kind of go nuts with the guitar solo there. So
sure, he is probably much more inclined and talented to play a guitar solo that would shred than I am a harmonica riff. Oh goodness, yeah, that's a good time.
Yeah,
there was Are you familiar with the artist Ben Rector?
Yeah.
Okay, he was on a tour that I saw. It wasn't Rupp, but it was another kind of college venue somewhere on UK's campus. He came out there, played a show 3-4 years back that I went and saw, and they closed the night with 5 Huey Lewis covers. It was really fun. You got all his sappy Christian or Christian adjacent songs and love songs about his wife, and then the encore, he came back out and he goes, "Hey, we really like Huey Lewis. Is it okay if we just play 5 Huey Lewis songs?" And everybody lost their mind. So,
that would be so cool.
That was fun. That was fun.
But a lot of the Huey Lewis stuff is nostalgia for me because I was when Sports came out in '83, I was sophomore in high school.
Okay.
And when I was in summers, when I was in junior high and high school, I worked at the local elementary school doing maintenance work. So I would be painting classrooms, restriping parking lots, you name it, whatever it was. Okay. And I would have my boom box. Okay.
All right.
A legit boom box with 47 D batteries in it. Okay. Enough to power a nuclear reactor. But I remember very specifically playing this album over and over and over again. It was this and Purple Rain. I mean, it was just, I would play one and then I'd play the other, and all on cassette, of course. Okay. All of this is on cassette. And I remember, or I would listen to the radio because local radio.
It was always there. Sure.
Real local radio. All right.
Yep.
And one of the things that was genius that they did, Huey Lewis and News did with this is, Heart of Rock and Roll. The whole song was based around Cleveland being the heart of rock and roll. And then they kind of named off some other cities in the song, but they did different versions of the song that they would release to specific markets. So being from East Tennessee, the rock and roll station in the area was WIMZ 103.5 WIMZ. I remember it. And so in the tail end of the song where they're starting naming off cities, they would name Knoxville, Tennessee, and they think our city's the heart of rock and roll. No, they think every city is the heart of rock and roll because they're selling records.
Absolutely, and they did it masterfully.
They really did. It was the whole thing was just extremely well done.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I actually didn't know that. That's a cool little piece of trivia.
Yeah. So but listening to, I'll probably go through the Sports album. I mean, today I probably listened to it twice, just to kind of get a refresher on it. But I'll listen to it 1 or 2 times a year, all the way through, at least. And we'll pick a few things here and there off of some of their other albums along the way too. It fills out any playlist pretty well.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. Anything else on Huey Lewis or the sports album?
No, if you're not familiar, and I think there's probably a generation my age and those younger that could have missed this band if you weren't paying attention. So go check them out. Throw this record on the next time you have a road trip. It's right at, I think, like 70 minutes top to bottom.
It's not that long. It's
not that long. Yeah.
No,
it's an easy listen, quick get through. So yeah, check it out. You're missing out on a lot of really good fun stuff.
9 songs, 37 minutes, 42 seconds.
Is that it?
Yep.
Holy cow. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So quick, fun listen.
And you'll have a good time with it. And if you're just cruising around YouTube, go to the Huey Lewis and the News page on YouTube and just watch some of these videos. They're fun. Okay. They're not trying to change the world. They're not trying. I mean, there's some social commentary in there. Walking on a Thin Line is a song about, Vietnam vets and how they were treated when they came home. But they're not trying to be controversial. They're having a good time and they want you to come along with them. And if you do, you'll enjoy that ride. I promise you. Now, unfortunately, I think 2018, Huey had some significant hearing loss. Mm-hmm. So I think the band has stopped touring at this point. I think he still does a weekly radio show for Apple Music or something, but it's basically just him DJing a bunch of tunes for an hour or so. But really, by all accounts, good guy and a great band. So really talented. I don't think that anybody was there showing off. I think everybody was just trying to make what's the best sound that we can get. Mm-hmm. So anyway,
absolutely.
Check it out. Huey Lewis and the News. Check out some Old Forester. Check out Old Forester with Fresca. And thank me later, okay? Because you'll enjoy both. You'll enjoy the Mitch Cumstein cocktail and Huey Lewis and the News sports album. Because both are just fun. All right, Drew. Anything else?
No, that's it for me, sir.
All right. Well, tell everybody where they can find you on social media.
Yep. As previously mentioned, drewcrawleymusic.com is the website. We've also got an Instagram. It's probably the most up-to-date, week-to-week, day-to-day. It's drew.crawley63 if you'd like to follow along on there. I've given up on Twitter and Threads and Spaces and whatever else there is out there. So Instagram or the website, come check it out. And if you're in the area, please make yourself at home. Come see a live show. We'll be sure to treat you right.
Yeah. Yeah, if you go see Drew, you'll probably see me too. It's one of those things. It's like Drew and Sweet Lady. They're kind of like, "Are you here again?"
Yeah.
But anyway.
Sorry. Well, hey, if the two of us are in the same space with live music, there's good bourbon and to be had. So
that is a fact.
We promise a good time.
That is a fact. Hey, as for our show, you can watch us on YouTube. Or if you just want to listen on a podcast, you're driving to work, whatever the case may be, you want to listen on 1.25 speed or 1.5 speed to get through it pretty quick, hey, you can do that. As long as you're listening to Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, or Google Podcasts. We're on all three of those. We have a Facebook page where we post all of our shows. We have a Facebook group where we will post what we're drinking and what we're listening to while we're drinking. So you may see us sipping on a Mitch Cumstein cocktail while listening to the sports album. That would be the kind of thing that you would see posted there. So check all that out. Also on Instagram, we have a Twitter page. I don't really keep up with that too much. If we have a guest on that's really big on Twitter, I'll post some stuff on Twitter. But for the most part, look at Facebook, look at Instagram, and you'll keep up with everything that we've got going on. So fun time, fun show. I enjoyed that. I mean, for a show that we figured out maybe 2 hours before it started, I thought it was a lot of fun. I had a good time. I had a good time. I think you had a good time. Hope you had a good time too watching it out there. So until next time, on behalf of Drew and Huey Lewis and Old Forester, cheers, love, and bad is bad.
Cheers.
Good night.
Good night.